there lived a boy named Kojo. He was only 16, but life had already been hard on him. His parents had died when he was little, and his only family was his younger sister, Abina. She was all he had in the world. One day, a terrible sickness spread through the village. People coughed and shivered, their bodies weak. Even the strongest warriors could not stand. The village healer tried every herb, every remedy, but nothing worked. Then, the worst thing happened, Abina fell sick too. She lay on a mat, her breath slow, her small hands burning with fever. Kojo sat beside her, tears in his eyes. "Please, don't leave me," he whispered. That night, Kojo could not sleep. He walked to the edge of the village, staring up at the stars, praying to the heavens. "God, help me," he begged. "Save my sister. Save my people." Then, the wind changed. It whispered through the trees, soft but strong. The leaves rustled as if they carried a secret. And then, before him, a bright light appeared. It was blinding and golden, and in the middle of it stood an old man with a long white beard, dressed in robes as pure as the moon. "Kojo," the old man said, his voice deep like thunder but calm like the river. "You have a pure heart, full of love. Because of this, I will give you a gift." In his wrinkled hands, he held out a wooden stick, smooth and glowing faintly. "This is the staff of life," the man said. "With it, you can heal the sick, but only if your heart remains pure." Kojo's hands trembled as he took the stick. The moment he touched it, warmth spread through his fingers, filling him with hope. He ran back to the village, straight to Abina. He placed the staff gently on her chest. The glow of the stick grew brighter, and suddenly, she took a deep breath. The fever vanished. Her eyes opened. "Kojo," she whispered, sitting up. Tears of joy filled his eyes. The staff had worked. Without wasting time, Kojo ran to the other sick villagers. One by one, he touched them with the stick, and one by one, they were healed. The village rejoiced, singing and dancing. Kojo became known as the boy blessed by God. People from faraway lands came to see him, bringing their sick and weak. But with each person he healed, the staff became dimmer. The old man's words echoed in his mind, "Only if your heart remains pure." Then, one day, a rich chief from another land came. He was sick and weak, his face pale. He carried a bag of gold and laid it before Kojo. "Heal me, boy," the chief said. "And all of this will be yours." Kojo hesitated. He had never asked for anything in return before. The gold shined brightly. With it, he and Abina would never be hungry again. But then he looked at his staff. The glow was almost gone. Tears filled his eyes as he realized the truth. If he used the staff for greed, its power would disappear forever. Kojo took a deep breath, then shook his head. "No," he said. "The staff is a gift, not for sale." The chief left, angry, but Kojo did not regret his choice. That night, the old man appeared again. "You have done well, Kojo," he said. "Your heart remains pure." With those words, the staff glowed brighter than ever, shining like the sun. From that day on, Kojo used the staff only to help those in need. He never became rich, but he was loved by all, and his name was never forgotten. Many years passed, and Kojo's name spread far and wide. People called him Kojo the healer, and sick travelers from distant lands journeyed to his village, hoping for his touch. But the more people came, the heavier Kojo's heart became. He saw suffering everywhere, children crying for their sick mothers, old men gasping for breath, warriors weakened by disease. He healed as many as he could, but deep inside, he felt something changing. One night, he sat by the river with Abina, staring at the reflection of the moon in the water. "Sister," he said softly, "I fear that no matter how many I heal, there will always be more suffering in the world." Abina, now grown into a wise young woman, placed a gentle hand on his. Kojo, you were chosen for a reason. You cannot save everyone, but for those you have saved, you are a miracle. Kojo nodded, but a deep worry remained in his heart. One day, messengers from a powerful king arrived at the village. The king was known as King Owusu the Great, ruler of a mighty kingdom beyond the mountains. He had heard of Kojo's magic stick and demanded his presence at the palace. Come quickly, the messenger said. The king is dying. Kojo did not hesitate. With his staff in hand, he traveled to the grand palace, where golden statues lined the halls, and servants moved like shadows in the candlelight. In the king's chamber, Kojo found King Owusu lying on a silk bed, his face pale, his breath shallow. He was surrounded by his advisors, who whispered nervously. Heal me, the king gasped, his voice weak but demanding. Kojo raised his staff, ready to heal him. But before he could, the king's chief advisor stepped forward. The king offers you wealth beyond imagination if you give him your staff, the advisor said. Kojo froze. He had never been offered something so great. He thought of Abina, of how they had struggled to survive, of how their home was small and simple. With riches, they would never go hungry again. The king coughed, his eyes desperate. Give me the staff, boy. You will never suffer again. Kojo looked at the staff. It was glowing faintly, its light flickering, as if waiting for his decision. Then he remembered the words of the old man. Only if your heart remains pure. His heart pounded. If he gave the staff away, the power would be lost forever. Kojo took a deep breath. Then, he shook his head. No, Your Majesty, he said. This staff is not mine to give. The king's face twisted in rage. Then you will never leave this palace alive, he thundered. Kojo's heart raced as the guards grabbed him. He struggled, but they were too strong. They dragged him to the dungeon and locked him in a dark, damp cell. For 3 days, Kojo sat in silence, weak with hunger. He thought of Abina, of the people in the village who needed him. Had he made a mistake? Should he have given the king the staff? On the 4th night, as he lay against the cold wall, a whisper filled the air. Kojo, do not lose faith. It was the voice of the old man. Kojo looked up and saw a faint golden light glowing from the staff. Even in the darkness, its power remained. With newfound strength, Kojo stood and raised the staff. The light exploded, blinding the guards outside his cell. The iron bars melted away, and the door swung open. Kojo ran. Through the halls. Past the startled guards. Out of the palace. As he reached the palace gates, he turned one last time and slammed the staff into the ground. A wave of golden energy surged through the palace, shaking the walls. The king's cries echoed as the magic spread, leaving behind a powerful warning: greed could never own the power of the gods. Kojo disappeared into the night, his heart lighter than it had been in a long time. Kojo returned to his village, greeted by Abina's warm embrace and the joyful cheers of the people. But he knew his journey was far from over. More people would need his help. More kings would try to take his staff. But as long as his heart remained pure, the power of the staff would never fade. And so, Kojo the healer continued his journey, a boy with a gift from the gods, walking a path that only the pure of heart could follow. Kojo arrived at a village where the air was thick with sorrow. The huts were broken, the fields dry, and the people weak and starving. A frail woman clutched her sick child as she looked up at him. Please, healer, she begged, my son is dying. Kojo's heart ached. He raised his magic staff, and a warm golden light wrapped around the child. Slowly, the sickness faded, and the boy sat up, his strength returning. The villagers gasped. It is true, an old man whispered. The gods walk with him. But as Kojo healed more people, he noticed something strange. Their sickness kept returning. No matter how many times he used the staff, the people would fall ill again. It was as if the land itself was cursed. Kojo frowned. This was not natural. That night, as he sat under a tree, thinking deeply, an old woman approached him. Her back was bent with age, and her eyes were filled with secrets. The spirit raised a hand. Find the truth. Bring the chief to justice. Only then will the curse be lifted. Kojo woke up with a start. His staff was glowing brightly, as if it, too, had heard the spirit's words. He knew what he had to do. At dawn, Kojo stood before the chief's hut. The villagers gathered, whispering nervously. The chief, a tall, proud man with cold eyes, stepped forward. What do you want, boy? Kojo held his staff firmly. Tell the truth. The chief's face darkened. What are you talking about? Kojo raised his staff high. Golden light burst into the sky, swirling around the village. Suddenly, a terrifying howl echoed through the air. The ground trembled. And then, the spirit of the murdered man appeared. The villagers screamed. The chief staggered back, his face pale with fear. You cannot hide, the spirit said, his voice heavy with sorrow. You took my life out of jealousy. And for years, your people have suffered for it. The chief fell to his knees. No, no. Kojo stepped forward. It is time for justice. The chief wept. For the first time, he confessed his crime. At that moment, the sky opened, and golden light poured down on the village. The curse broke. The land breathed again. The sickness was gone. The villagers cheered, their hearts lighter than they had been in years. Kojo lowered his staff, his heart full. He had learned something important that day. True healing was not just about the body. Sometimes, the soul needed to be healed, too. As Kojo prepared to leave, the old woman smiled at him. You are more than just a healer, child. You are a bringer of truth. Kojo nodded. He was no longer just a boy with a magic stick. He was a warrior of the gods, a healer of souls, a seeker of justice. Kojo had broken the curse. The village was free. But his journey was far from over. With his magic staff in hand, he walked through the vast forest, across rivers, and over hills. He was searching for something greater, though he did not yet know what. One night, as he rested under a great baobab tree, a strange wind blew through the branches. It whispered his name. Kojo. Kojo. His eyes snapped open. The air felt heavy. Then, from the shadows, a tall figure emerged. It was a man dressed in white robes, his face hidden beneath a golden mask. Kojo's heart pounded, he recognized this presence. It was a messenger of the gods. You have done well, child, the figure said, his voice deep and distant. But your journey is not yet complete. Kojo sat up, gripping his staff. What must I do? The figure pointed to the horizon, where the mountains met the sky. There is a kingdom beyond those hills, the messenger said. A kingdom suffering under a terrible plague. Hundreds are dying every day. No healer, no magic has been able to stop it. Kojo's breath caught in his throat. A plague. The messenger nodded. It is no ordinary sickness. It is a curse of the ancients, one that only you can break. Kojo felt a chill run through him. He had broken curses before, but this felt different. More dangerous. The figure stepped closer. You must go, Kojo. But be warned, the path ahead will test you in ways you have never imagined. And then, like mist in the morning sun, the messenger vanished. Kojo stared into the night sky, his heart beating like a drum. He did not know what awaited him in the cursed kingdom. But he knew one thing. He could not turn back. After many days of travel, Kojo arrived at the gates of the kingdom of Zumora. What he saw made his heart ache. The land was dry and cracked. The rivers had turned to dust. The trees were black and lifeless. And the people, they were dying. Children lay weak in their mothers' arms. Men and women coughed and trembled as they walked, their eyes hollow with despair. Kojo clutched his staff tightly. "This is worse than I imagined," he whispered. The guards at the gate stopped him. "Who are you?" one of them demanded. "I am Kojo," he said firmly. "A healer. I have come to help." The guards looked at each other, uncertain. Then, one of them said, "Take him to the queen." Kojo was led into a grand palace, but even here, sickness had left its mark. The golden walls were covered in dust. Servants moved like shadows, their faces pale and weary. At the center of the great hall sat Queen Odono. She was a tall, regal woman with deep brown skin, her face marked with grief. She held a child in her arms, her son. Kojo's breath caught. The boy was sick. His small body shivered. His eyes fluttered weakly. When the queen looked at Kojo, tears filled her eyes. "Are you truly a healer?" she asked, her voice shaking. "I am," Kojo said. "Then please," she begged. "Save my son." Kojo lifted his staff. A soft golden light filled the hall, wrapping around the boy. For a moment, hope filled the queen's face. But then, something went wrong. The golden light flickered. The staff grew cold. Kojo gasped as a dark force pushed back against his magic. The sickness was fighting him. This was not just a plague. This was something else. Kojo stumbled back, breathing hard. "This is not just a disease," he said. "This is the work of a powerful curse." Queen Odono's face paled. "A curse?" Kojo nodded. "And I must find its source, before it's too late." The queen clutched her son tighter. "What do you need?" Kojo looked around the palace, his mind racing. "I need to know, when did this sickness begin?" The queen hesitated. Then, in a whisper, she said, "It started the day the old king died." Kojo's heart pounded. A curse that began the day the old king died. That could not be a coincidence. He needed answers. That night, Kojo walked through the palace, searching for clues. He moved silently, his staff glowing faintly in the darkness. Then, deep in the royal archives, he found something strange. An old, hidden door. He pushed it open, stepping into a forgotten chamber. The air was thick with dust. Strange symbols were carved into the walls, symbols of dark magic. And at the center of the room, sitting on a stone altar, was a blackened crown. Kojo's blood ran cold. Suddenly, a voice hissed from the shadows. "You should not have come here, boy." Kojo spun around, raising his staff. A figure stepped forward, cloaked in darkness. Their eyes glowed red. Their face was hidden beneath a deep hood. Kojo gritted his teeth. "Who are you?" The figure laughed softly. They said, "I'm the true ruler of this land." Kojo's breath caught. Could it be? The old king had not just died. He had been cursed. And now, his spirit had returned. The sickness in the kingdom was no ordinary plague. It was his vengeance. Kojo tightened his grip on his staff. He had fought curses before. But this would be his greatest battle yet. Kojo's heart pounded as he faced the dark figure in the hidden chamber. The old king's spirit had returned, trapped between life and death, his rage spreading sickness across the land. The air grew heavy, thick with dark energy. Kojo felt it pressing against his chest, cold and suffocating. "You are the cause of this plague," Kojo said, gripping his staff. The shadowy figure laughed, a low, hollow sound that echoed through the chamber. "This kingdom was mine," the spirit said, his red eyes glowing. "I built it with my hands, ruled it with wisdom. But they cast me aside. They let me die and buried me like a common man. Now they suffer." Kojo swallowed hard. "You were a great king once. But now you are hurting your own people." The spirit's form flickered, shifting like smoke. "They are not my people anymore. They forgot me." Kojo took a step forward. "You can still find peace." He lifted his magic staff, golden light glowing at its tip. "Let go of this anger. Let go of this pain." The old king's spirit hissed, recoiling from the light. "No. I will not fade. I will make them remember me, through their suffering." A sudden gust of black wind swept through the chamber. Kojo staggered as the darkness swirled around him, pulling at his clothes, pressing against his skin. Then, the spirit attacked. The chamber exploded with dark energy. Kojo barely had time to raise his staff before a wave of black fire surged toward him. He jumped aside, rolling across the ground as the flames scorched the stone floor. The old king's voice echoed. "You cannot defeat me, boy." Kojo stood tall, gripping his staff. He had faced darkness before. He had healed the sick, broken curses, and freed villages from suffering. He would not stop now. Raising his staff high, Kojo called upon the gods. "Great spirits of light," he whispered, "help me end this curse." A blinding golden light erupted from the staff, cutting through the darkness like a blade. The spirit screamed as the light tore through his shadowy form, forcing him back. But he was not defeated yet. "You think your magic is strong enough," the spirit growled. "I am older than you, stronger than you. You cannot banish me." Kojo clenched his jaw. He knew the spirit was right, he could not destroy him with power alone. He needed to break the curse at its root. Kojo took a deep breath, his mind racing. This spirit was not just evil, it was a soul in pain. The old king had been betrayed. Forgotten. Buried without honor. His rage had twisted into a curse, poisoning the land. Kojo lowered his staff slightly. "You do not have to stay here," he said softly. "You do not have to suffer." The spirit snarled, but Kojo saw something flicker in his red eyes, doubt. Kojo stepped closer. "You wanted your people to remember you," he said. "But this is not the way." The spirit trembled. The shadows around him wavered. "Let me honor you," Kojo said. "Let me give you peace." The spirit hesitated. Then, for the first time, his eyes softened. Kojo knelt down and pressed his staff to the ground. With a whisper, he spoke a prayer for the old king's soul. Golden light spread through the chamber, flowing over the spirit's form. The old king let out a soft, shuddering breath. I only wanted to be remembered." "You will be," Kojo promised. "Not as a curse, but as a great ruler." The spirit closed his eyes. His form faded, dissolving into light. The darkness lifted. The curse was broken. Kojo stumbled out of the chamber, exhausted but victorious. The sky, once gray and lifeless, was now blue. The air was fresh. The people who had been sick were rising to their feet, healed. Queen Odona ran to him, tears in her eyes. "The sickness, it is gone." Kojo nodded weakly. "The spirit has found peace." The queen fell to her knees before him. "You have saved us." The people gathered, their eyes full of gratitude and awe. Kojo looked at their faces and smiled. He had done what he was meant to do. But his journey was not over. He would keep walking, keep healing, keep bringing hope to those in need. Because he was Kojo, the boy with the magic staff. And his story was far from finished.